Welcome to the World Fitness and Wellness Summit organized by the Fit Summit. My name is Sarah and I'm the head of events at the Fit Summit. Today, we meet an extraordinary speaker, Gemma. Gemma is the managing director of Bonska Consultancy. She has over 20 years of health and fitness industry knowledge and over 15 years of strategic marketing experience. Gemma now works in a number of different industries and with individuals, making marketing purposeful and not just pretty. Hi, Gemma. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi.
Let's dive into the first question, okay?
No problem.
During these uncertain times and volatile markets, how do we market our brand, plus stay connected and engaged with our members?
Gosh, that's a big question. And I think the key thing is, and I've found this with a number of my clients, is that there was a massive rush to get everything done very, very quickly. And quite a few of my clients were in panic mode at the beginning of COVID when we went into lockdown in kind of March, April time. And the key thing I said to them is wait. Think and pause and actually come up with a plan. Don't be reactive, even in this situation when it was so keen for people to suddenly throw as much information out as possible in their concern about losing memberships and what they were going to do, particularly when it came down to the digital offering. And what we found with a lot of people is that you see the success stories when people have actually planned what they were going to do and really decided their direction before they went live. And you see that with quite a few of them in the brands in terms of loyalty. And the key thing with that is that one of the panics was there was so much free content out in the market. The good thing in a way is that it actually introduced people to exercise and activity that we would never have seen. So this big panic of, oh my gosh, everything's going to be awful and we're going to suspend. Yes, that's true. And it was very hard for those established facilities in the boutique market, because we know that boutiques are fundamentally about flexibility and really a lot of them do not have a direct debit set up. And that obviously caused some problems because of financial planning. But when you look at some of them, what they achieved, the key of bringing in live data and then actually adding on as a bolt-on worked very well. And quite a few of them diversified as well within the market. And that was a significant difference. But certainly the pause, listen, wait, don't be reactive, and come up with a plan so that when you do your marketing, it's well thought out and it's considered. And therefore your communication strategy has to flow alongside that as well.
Basically, what you're trying to say is not be impulsive and plan for the long term, because it's only normal for all of us to go into a racing mode and a panic mode. But what's most important is the long-term strategy works. So wait, plan around it, and then execute it. So thank you so much for sharing this short bite advice. It's really good. Moving on to my second question, right? What are some of the most valuable or best received marketing advice that you've put out to either your clients or employees?
This bit of advice was really around thinking differently. A lot of people have been so considered for so many years about looking in what just happens in your facilities. And those people, all of us in marketing have been saying for a long time, and a lot of the businesses have embraced this, that consider what happens outside of the four walls. How do you get your members and how do you talk to them and make sure that you've segmented those? So this has been an ideal time to actually go back to your CRM system and your management system and establish who is actually using and who has actually been interested, to work out how you're going to communicate with them directly. Because what you see with a lot of the clubs and boutiques is that some of them hit communication perfectly. There's some wonderful examples in the industry as to those that not only diversified but continue to communicate with their members throughout this lockdown and what was happening, and they didn't lose sight of those customers, and then they've gone after new customers. And the key thing about going after the new customers is we know from various research that's been done during this lockdown, and the British Journal of Sports Medicine did a really interesting piece of research in June that actually showed exercise within UK and Australia hit the highest Google trends since records started in January 2004. So we know that exercise has suddenly become at the forefront of people's mind. They understand their health is important. And what they'll start to do, they'll go into this channel, this funnel of interest of exercise, and yet we're to see how that data is actually going to turn out in relation to those people who've actually taken on this exercise activity longer term, not this short term for their health. But what we should consider for these facilities is that this is where all of your communication, I'm not just talking direct communication, I'm also talking about those people who've potentially gone into exercise who would never ever have even considered doing it, or certainly were scared to it. There's a whole other market that you've got the opportunity to tap into. So there is this key opportunity for people who've got into exercise for you to actually get them involved in what you're doing, be that online and digital. And this is where you need two very different strategies, from your in-house to your digital, and look at how you set them up as a membership base, and then how you make them interesting and relevant to that segment that you're trying to target. And there'll be many segments that aren't relevant to you, but you need to know who you are interested in to make sure you can communicate to them properly.
I think what you said really makes sense, because the fitness era is finally here. Something a lot of us have been talking about for the longest time. It has finally happened during this pandemic, and especially the part where you said planning, executing it, and also just not talking about it, but making sure executing it. That goes a long way. Thank you so much for sharing it. I think you explained a bit about the situation, but how do we maneuver around this situation where, especially during this pandemic, members are already used to getting digital workouts for free, because we saw an increasing amount of fitness clubs out there during this pandemic. When the gyms were closed, the clubs were closed, they started offering digital workouts for free. And how do we make this now? What they're struggling is that they're struggling to convert this into a revenue generating platform. So how can we bridge this gap from workouts that were being offered free before and now moving into revenue generating platform?
This is where there's a number of ways to look at this. You've got some of the clubs that obviously still have continued to do live streaming as they've moved forward. But what they've done is they've established a membership option. And this again comes down to brand recognition and loyalty. Those people who have been offering free workouts, we've seen it on Instagram, we've seen it on Facebook Live, we've seen it across the board. People have always had the ability to get workouts to them before social media. We know that, home workouts have always been a thing. Amazon Fire, you can now go on Amazon Fire and find hundreds of different workouts that you can do at home. That hasn't changed. It's just been the awareness has improved, and there's been a slightly different way of delivering them because of lockdown. What clubs have managed to do is they've actually looked at this, put in live workouts to begin with, but we know that when you're looking at the data of boutiques specifically, the experience is the key fundamental reason people go to those clubs. They want to be able to feel part of the community. I think it's got that 63% of them from research recently want to be part of the community. And then there's 47% participate because of the atmosphere. The key thing within delivering the digital and making it valuable to those potential customers and existing is that you're taking those two elements of experience and putting it into life in your workouts. That's recognition of people who are present, following on and making sure people are building a community once they've attended, giving them extra attention once they've actually considered and taken part in the activity. So you're always bringing that value of that brand forward. A lot of them have done the free, and then within their planning, they've then brought in the paid per class option, and that's also been very successful. Kubox in London, they've live streamed, and they're now £7.50 for a class when their usual value of the class is £22 in the UK. And many of them have done it very successfully. And it comes down to how you position your brand and how you put out your message. And there's something called the T strategy, TEA, theatre, experience, and advice. They're the three elements when you're doing anything, whether you're at a trade show, whether you're delivering online content or digital content, that you consider the theatre and the experience and the advice. And as long as they fit within your brand, those people who've come to do exercise, who may never even had any interest before to do exercise, suddenly the recognition of those brands they're seeing through adverts and awareness, which have always been there, and we know those who we're very familiar with, they're at the forefront of their mind. And these are people who've never been interested before. Suddenly they can have a different membership option, and they might live nowhere near that facility. And that's something that should be thought about as well, is that usually you've got a 3 or 4 mile radius that people would come to travel to a facility. People aren't going to workspaces anymore, but they still want to experience that brand in their own home.
So definitely from what you say, what I've input is that, you have to build a community, to foster a community. That's definitely one. And to build a brand, build an awareness around your brand so that you can actually seamlessly move into a revenue generating platform. So thank you so much for sharing.
Absolutely. Wow. And I think the key, I think the key thing with that as well is it to ensure that, like I mentioned, the people who have never done this before, your awareness and the investment in your marketing that you've done pre-COVID and during means that when they're ready to transition to be part of a bigger community, not just sitting at home and looking at a screen, they actually want to be part of Barry's, or they want to be part of any other facility, they will know and search for that. And if you have your ecosystem of social setup done correctly with your tag manager and your Facebook and your ads, and linking all of them effectively with all the back-end work that has to be done, when people are searching and looking, you're popping up straight away. So suddenly they're starting to become part of the community, and the awareness has improved naturally. and then they're going to go and look what your online memberships are like, and that's how you funnel people through.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing it. What do you think, what will be everyone's main concerns, especially consumers' main concerns, when it comes to buying, especially from whatever you mentioned with this whole situation, both now and especially when things are back to normal?
I think the concerns will be, no one knows when we're going to come out of this situation. So I think that's the biggest concerns for consumers. They are certainly becoming more concerned about or aware of what they're spending their money on, and actually is it giving them value and making a difference to their life. With this current situation, people know that their health and their well-being, mental well-being as well, is so important. So as long as you are, again, this comes back to the segment, as long as you are talking to those people who have those specific concerns, they will see value in it. And with all consumers, they will seek what they need at that moment in time. Therefore, the retention might be slightly different. Your online memberships might be different in retention and attrition rates, very different to what you're seeing in club. But when you start to come back to some normality, whatever that might look like, and we're going into the clubs more and more, we're seeing it now with people going through the doors and getting back involved. They want to go back in because they want to feel that community and have that human connection with people. It's very challenging online to bring that to life, but there are some successful ones out there. But fundamentally, I think from a consumer's point of view, they will just want, they will seek what is their need right now. And you have to have your brand in the forefront of their mind to ensure that they seek you out, to make sure they feel valued. And then once they do become part of your community online, nurturing them exactly the same as you'd nurture those people who are coming into your club, but having two very different strategies which represent the brand and what you're trying to communicate online will be the difference.
That's great. Thank you so much for such a valuable piece of advice. It was really great. I think coming back to one question, there are so many free options in the market right now. How do you compete with that?
It depends again on what you're trying to achieve. Sometimes not even competing with it is important because those free options are bringing people in who might never have used it. We know that home exercise has improved dramatically. It's like over 5,000% increase on purchase of a home gym equipment that we've seen. So I think collaborations are going to be important because the free, there's a lot of free stuff out there, but it doesn't mean it's the best just because something's free. And I think when you're bringing someone into your environment and what you're trying to achieve, the free becomes irrelevant anyway as people decide to commit to something. When people have got into a routine and a habit, they always seek the next thing. And that's a natural for anybody. We've seen, cycling, for example, the boom in cycling since the lockdown has been phenomenal. And then obviously you have Peloton with their stocks and their shares. I mean, with sort of February in 2020 and September, I think it was 2019, they were slumping, and then suddenly we've rocketed again. So, and it's the collaborations that are important. You've got One Rebel who've collaborated with Technogym. They've seen that bikes, indoor bikes at home are the third most popular home piece of equipment. So I think in terms of the free, I think that will become irrelevant as people this becomes more of a habit because they will seek value and they know that to get something that's valuable and they feel part of something, suddenly that's where you pay more for.
People will definitely pay for quality if it is of value. And also the
Absolutely.
fact about collaboration, I think it's the key moving forward. So thank you for sharing this. I mean, how do you see the marketing strategies of boutique fitness owners, especially, evolving in the next 1 to 3 years?
I think it will evolve in a number of different ways. We've mentioned the strategies already, and I think you have to have very clear strategies for in-house and digital or social. You have to have two very clear strategies for those different funnels now. And those who don't will struggle because we're not sure if we're going to be in and out this situation for the next year, 2, 3 years. So to have a very clear strategy as to how you're going to communicate, promote those, plan those, execute them, make sure people feel part of what you are is going to be very important. Within that also, you need to think that boutiques themselves were originally designed, or when they came in, for their flexibility for the younger generation. And we know the younger generation have actually, out of all of the age groups, have been doing more exercise during lockdown up to the 19 to 24, have done more activity than any other activity. They've done more compared to what they did before lockdown, And then we've got this other area when you look at the other ages, and maybe boutiques, there is the opportunity that boutiques won't just be for that age group, that actually you'll end up with boutiques are actually servicing the 50 plus and not the younger generation, still allowing for flexibility because we know that age group has actually taken on online activity more. And we know also the age group of the 35 to 44 have actually done less activity during lockdown. And fundamentally, it's down to most of them being parents. And they've obviously been pulled with homeschooling and trying to work And obviously balancing the two has been very difficult. So boutiques, I think, will start to alter and become very specific in their age group that they're focusing on. And I think that'll be a key market as well for them to develop into their strategies.
I think focusing on identifying a niche group based on data, basically focusing your marketing strategy on it would be the way to go in the next 1 to 3 years. I completely agree with you. Thank you so much, Gemma, for actually sharing all this valuable marketing advice. Do you have any final words to say to the industry during this pandemic?
I do. Consider the fact that right now people are working out at home. Don't be afraid to start to look at how you use Google, and I'm talking home Google, and I'm talking in-house entertainment and all of our AI bots we have in our home with Alexa. Don't be afraid to actually look at the developer tools of all of these, because these could actually, if you have a great opportunity and you look at how Alexa and Google work, actually walking into your kitchen going, hey Alexa, what's my workout from X brand today? That is a key thing. You need to be ingrained in every part of their home, not just their TV, not just their phones. Think about everything in terms of home connectivity. And that is going to be a big change in the next 12 months for our industry.
Thank you so much, Gemma, for sharing. Thank you.